Live.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us this evening. This is a special edition of the Foxworth Theory. Tonight, we have some super folks with incredible experiential backgrounds, expertise, and just history, iconic history, that have taken their careers to unchanneled, unrivaled paths. And we're going to share some information. The goal tonight, in celebration of Black Music Month and upcoming Juneteenth, is really just to share some knowledge, share some education, share some experience, and collectively, as you know, to lift us all up, because together, united with informed individuals and professionals, we make a much stronger community on all fronts. So I'm pleased to serve as your moderator this evening. I have an esteemed panel, and I'm going to do some quick introductions so that you'll understand and appreciate the depth of expertise and knowledge that is on your screen for the evening. So let's start in no particular order with Mr. Stanley Brown. And I guess I'm preferential to Mr. Brown because he's my homeboy, a former client of mine as well. But just an incredible talent. I mean, he's been in this business for literally over 30 years. And for a guy who's only 35 years old, that's saying a whole lot. But he's an award-winning composer and producer. And he's worked with some of the biggest stars, some of the biggest artists in the music business. Not just focused in on Christian music and gospel music with superstars like Israel Houghton and Donnie McClurkin. He's got his R&B and his hip hop and his roots and his Queens background with Run DMC and LL Cool J, another Queens boy, Salt and Pepper and Belle Biv DeVoe, Keith Sweat. But it was really Hezekiah Walker and his being the music director for Hezekiah's Fellowship Crusade Choir that kind of infused him to get him into the position that he's in right now. But before I get into what he's doing right now, he's had an incredible career. He's been involved in Island Black Music as its vice president for A&R, and that's a really a precious position for anybody who deals with labels and is trying to really get a deal as we know it. He's been involved with Drui Hill and with Kelly Price and the esteemed Honorable Bishop T.D. Jakes and Karen Clark Sheard, Melanie Fiona and Michelle Williams from Destiny's Child, the infamous Charlie Wilson from the Gap Band, the infamous and iconic Shirley Caesar, B.B. Winans. I mean, I would need probably a couple of hours just to go down the list of credentials of artists that he's worked with. I mean, he's got his own company. He's worked with Butch Lewis, the rest in peace, Butch Lewis. He's worked at Motown and Verity Records and Fred Hammond and one of my clients, Eric Roberson and Dave Hollister, and labels like Entertainment One, in addition to what he was doing over at Def Jam. He currently serves and has served for quite a while in my home turf, his home turf, called Greater Allen Cathedral, and that's in St. Albans, Queens. And in addition to his music directorial services and duties there, he's just an incredible producer, creator, cultivator, and writer. So without further ado, we've got Stanley Brown joining us tonight. In no particular order, I will now switch down to one of the queens of marketing and publicity, Miss Jackie Rhinehart. We just affectionately call her Jackie, JR. She was the first senior vice president of marketing at Universal Music Group, Universal Records specifically, where she developed successful cross-promotional ventures between a number of Universal and Motown artists. Some of those artists included Nelly and Erykah Badu and Cash Money and Boyz II Men and Sean P. Diddy Combs, which is this what he calls himself right now. Or is it P. Diddy? I can't keep up with it, but you guys know who I'm talking about. But Jackie has been legendary, iconic, and very successful in being able to navigate the connectivity between marketing, branding, and public relations, PR, publicity as we know it. I mean, she's worked with names that, would be household names to some of you all, and in some cases to some of your parents, such as Dionne Warwick, such as Aretha Franklin, such as TLC, Whitney Houston, Toni Braxton, Lisa Stansfield, Kenny G. She was instrumental in transforming the Miss America beauty pageant winner, Vanessa Williams, into a gold and platinum selling artist. So I think that says she knows what the heck she's doing. So without any specific order, let's shift to the media. As a native New Yorker myself, you couldn't turn on the radio without hearing the chief rocker, Frankie Crocker. If I'm not on your radio's not really on. And there I go. Well, Skip Dillard was one of the instrumental executives at WBLS and WLIB in New York for decades. And in those positions, he involved himself in their marketing and their programming and really gave New York its soul as far as I'm concerned. And now he's the brand manager, program director for Odyssey Station in New York City. You all know it as 94.7 The Block. And obviously I don't sound like he would or another DJ, but I think you get the idea. Skip has also served as a top 40 and urban managing editor for Billboard Magazine's Airplay Monitor for a number of years. He's been awarded and recognized and honored by another organization I'm involved with, the Living Legends Foundation. He's been awarded one of the top PDs in America. He's got a certificate of merit for his community service from Congress. And we could go on and on and on about his civic duties with, the executive board of the Greater Harlem Chamber of Commerce, with the Northeast Board for Operation Hope, Keep Hope Alive. And he just goes on and on and on. But at the end of the day, bottom line, 2 words. This guy is a media guru. So we'll take his words as gold. VELEKA B, she helps a lot of gospel artists and connecting them as founder and CEO of her own company, Set Apart and Chosen Digital Marketing, where she interconnects and uses marketing strategy and digital ideas and plans to further, to brand, to expose, and enhances church, gospel artists, faith-based businesses, while really setting them apart in the market. And clients of hers also include some household names like Pastor John P. Key, such as Ty Scott, the infamous independent gospel label out of Indianapolis, Entertainment One, Malaco, Charles Butler and Trinity, Isabel Davis, Lisa Noel Smith, Jarrell Smalls, and I could go on and on and on with her list as well. Moving right along, we've got a guy who I was just chiding with before, because I don't know, between his family and his work, I don't know if he gets any sleep. But if I tell you that Clifton Bell is not only known as the ghetto nerd, he's known as a creative genius. Very creative, just like our brother Stanley Brown. He is a producer, a writer, a creator, a curator, and he focuses on film and television and commercials and music and video. And if I run down the list of names of all of the artists that he's worked with, we'd probably be here until tomorrow, but I'll just give you a little sample to let you know that this boy is the real deal. How about Lil Wayne? How about Lil Baby? There's a lot of littles in there, but Lil Wayne, Lil Baby, they ain't the size of their checks. That's just the size of what they started off with, and they became big. Neo, The Roots, The Migos, Swizz Beatz, Rick Ross, T.I., 2 Chainz, Gucci Mane, Sony Records, Atlantic, Def Jam, Apple, Rock Nation. And he also directed and produced and edited the Cash Money Story for Apple Music, which had literally over 1 billion streams. It's hard to say millions now when you're talking to this dude because it's billions. But that's the level and the playing field on which Clifton Bell deals. Last but definitely by no means least, our Bronx brother. We won't talk about the Grand Concourse compared to Jamaica, but it's okay, HASAN James. It's all good. We still have love for the Bronx.
Absolutely.
Similar to Stanley's path, Hezekiah Walker and the Love Fellowship Crusade Choir gives roots, gives meaning, sustenance, foundation, and direction to so many people. Well, HASAN took that inspiration and he formed what is now one of the premier publications in the gospel music industry called Root Magazine. If you haven't seen it, you've lost out, but it's not too late. Make sure you check it out. He's had cover stories on iconic artists like Kirk Franklin and Mary Mary and Marvin Sapp, Hezekiah Walker, Kira Shear, Ty Tribbett, BB and CeCe Winans, Ricky Dillard, and I could just go on and on and on, because he has been the voice, the curator, and the promotion genius behind the magazine, as well as a founder and owner. But it's the ability to be able to inform, to educate, and to connect people of faith and people without faith as well, and make them people of faith into the stories of those people who are shaping our lives. As I tell my students, music is really the fabric of our lives. It's hard to go anywhere. I don't care whether you're in the gym, whether you're in the mall, whether you're in the arena at one of the games, whether you're walking through Lenox Mall or wherever it might be, you will hear music all around you, because music is everywhere and it's a universal language. So to be able to take that and to be in the media by portraying and informing and really promoting and branding a legacy of artists, Root Magazine has made its roots, and we welcome Hasan and Clifton and VELEKA and Skip and Stanley tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to jump right into the meat of tonight's discussion. First, I'd like to do, and it's going to be pretty much free range, so feel free just to jump in. We would really like to share with the audience what your opinion is about the state of Black music today. We know it's gone through lots of transformations. We knew that hip hop was questioned for a while, rap was questioned for a while, R&B, even though it lives on decades and decades later with impact in everybody's lives, folks weren't sure how long it was going to last. Was it disco like a craze? But what's the state of Black music now that we've moved from the majors to the independents to everybody being able to have pretty much equal access through online streaming and downloading, to where you see music, the Black music market in particular being, and what its potential is for new entrants into the business. So feel free, the mic is open. Anybody can jump on in. Don't be scared.
Well, I mean, I'll go, quickly first. I mean, sometimes we lament about music yesterday versus today, and often, times I find myself conflicted when listening to hip hop or R&B and pop music. But I will say this: every time I start to get a little down on the music going today, a new album drops by Kendrick Lamar, or Her is got a great song, and J. Cole is doing what he does. So there's so many success stories that continue on today, so many hits that I personally enjoy, so many albums I look forward to, whether it be Snow Allegra and many others today who are carrying the torch, so to speak. The biggest thing facing our industry and all industries today is really technology. We're in a streaming world. Artists make their money primarily on touring. So that is a challenge, because I've had several conversations recently with industry professionals about the viability of an artist. We're going back to the world of the starving artist. Either you're doing a stadium show and you're Drake, or you're struggling to fill up a intimate 300-person venue. So that's a problem we have to address. Most artists have told me that I've talked to that they don't see a living off of streaming in the streaming world. The checks are small. Very often, the labels get them first and distribute them, and the big dogs eat first. And, artists that are mid-level and C artists are left afterwards. That said, though, there are a lot of opportunities from an independent standpoint, from merchandising, from savvy marketing. So very technology-driven industry, ever-changing industry. Diversity and inclusion remain a major issue, in our industry, and it's something that's ongoing.
I agree. Anyone else would like to share?
Yeah, I often here at the studio, I'm fortunate to work with a lot of interns and young students that desire to be in this business, and I often tell them stories about what it was like back in the days when you had a Jackie Rhinehart, where my job was easy. All I had to do was come up with something that was sonically made sense and was just good and it was catchy and it worked, and then you was able to take it down a hall and put it in the hands of a Jackie Reinhardt or people who understood marketing and promotion and knew what to do with it. Now you have to do all of that yourself without the expertise and the experience of those who really know how to navigate our industry. And it's unfortunate that, it's like these kids will never know what it's like to put a quarter or a dime in a payphone, right? They will never know what it's like to partner with a record company, have a team of experts down a hall who can take what you worked on all night long, and in the morning we was excited about going in the office and say, hey, this is what we created last night, and they knew what to do with it. So I often feel, you know you know it's sad that these kids will never be able to experience that way of life of music anymore, where their whole life might be determined on or based on, or the success of their career is how many followers you have. You're not going to get past security if you don't have um a certain amount of followers. Where back in the day, if we were on our way to work on an A train and got off the train and somebody was incredible, that next day they were sitting in the office for a meeting at least. But now it's really, really, really hard, and the streaming game is here, and it's just harder for the underdog to even see the light of day.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Pimping is off.
I want to do a quick and good evening to another one of our esteemed panelists, Mike BARIL, who just joined us. He's a co-founder and creative director of Media Maker, based out of New York City, and as an expert and a leader in formulating national promotions and strategic marketing. He's been an executive at the Universal Music Group, at Warner Records, at Sony, at Epic, at J Records. And like some of our esteemed panelists, he's worked with names that none of you all have ever heard of before, like J-Lo and Alicia Keys and Jennifer Hudson and Jamie Foxx and Pitbull and Chris Brown, Lil Wayne, Mario, Jaheim, Sade. I love Sade. But the brother knows his stuff. So, Mike, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be part of it this evening.
Great. Stanley, I want to pick up on, and this is again a question for the entire audience, and Jackie, you should jump in too, it's right up your alley. How important is social media today to the DIY artist in terms of developing and sustaining a career and making some money? Anybody can jump in. Wide open field. Mic's open.
Well, I think it's it's very important. Social media, although it shouldn't be the end all to be all, right? Because like Stanley just said, we're living now, it seems like it's a disposable musical market, if you will. Because long gone are the days of, like, my daughter got me a record player last year for Father's Day. So I've been like listening to vinyls now, and it feels so good. It feels so nostalgic. Like vinyls are coming back. People don't really see it, but it's making a comeback because we're missing. It's like a missing piece where you can go get something tangible, play it, look at the credits. All of that stuff is gone, and I think that's the missing piece. With music now. Now with social media, it's by how many numbers you have. A lot of those followers you can buy. So it's like, you got to play that game. So it is important. It's because of the demographic that we're serving. So I guess everyone needs to have it, but I don't think it's the end all to be all. It should be about what you're producing. It should be about the product. You do need those followers and you do need to engage, but I think it should be a full gamut of just everything, because we're at a point now where it's becoming so disposable. These artists, the truth of the matter is these artists aren't really getting paid off of streaming. Like, you have to have other avenues. And I think we can all say that we all have more than one job, even on here on this panel. So it's not just just doing music anymore. But I think it should be a full gamut of just everything, not just social media. You shouldn't just rely on that.
Let me ask you a question. Because you say, and I understand you saying don't rely just on social media, but I'd like to ask, like, Jackie and Skip and Mike.
Well, it all depends on what's your objective. I mean, what are you in it for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think I saw a really
Hear me?
rude awakening. Jackie, I can hear Jackie.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you, Jackie.
We can hear you, Jackie.
We can hear you.
Okay. All right. Well, what I was thinking was that actually it depends on what's your objective as a musician. And if you're a musician today coming in the game and you're looking at the full spectrum and realizing, okay, it's not really about this music sales. There are no sales per se. And it is going to be a full spectrum game in terms of what am I going to be able to get out of this game other than just buy the music. And if you are an artist and you see it that way, then yes, you're going to go straight for social media and make it happen. I mean, I'm watching some documentaries lately on how Atlantic Records went after an artist. I mean, he was just a scam artist. That's the name of the genre, is that he's scamming. He was doing scams, all kind of like Nigerian tech scams online, making that money and telling people how to do it in the rap. So people were following him because of the information he was giving in terms of how to get over and get your paper. And that became a bidding war. And this was current enough that the A&R VP at Atlantic bought him. Then you've got another rap artist who basically was just doing crazy stuff in the street. And it was because of he associated that on his social media that increased his viewers. So he would throw his music in there. So the music became a byproduct, almost, it was the item he could really, that wasn't for sale because he was selling his violence and his theatrics, his antics online. And that is what drew the people to him and thus to the music. And he actually had a bidding war too and got 1 million plus.
I mean, such a what Jackie's saying.
So I'm just saying, there are artists that are doing that and they're doing it strictly for the social media. And they're working it and making it work for them. And then, of course, you've got all the other product extensions and businesses that they're making and that they essentially seem to have to make. I wouldn't want to be an artist strictly just for the artist of it, the artistry of it. I mean, how could you make a living?
Yeah.
I was going to say, Jackie made a really valid point. I was last year when we put out the John Legend's last album on Columbia, prior to his departure at the label, to be able to look at the streaming numbers for an adult AC artist that was 35, 54, and to see that we only, quote unquote, had 21,000 in sales. John obviously walked away from Columbia. It's disproportionately set up in favor, obviously, of an 1834 artist. And you could see it. I use Columbia as a good example because you can see the limited amount of R&B acts that we've put out in the last 3 years. We put out technically one artist in 3 years that would fall into an adult or even an R&B, quote unquote, genre. And additionally, to piggyback what Jackie said, most of the artists that we have signed at Columbia, everything is really based off of their journey. Everything is based off of their story. Everything, the bidding wars that some of the singles that we've had are all single one-off deals for the most part, with the exception maybe of Polo G. And you can see it in the artists like Fabio, Foreign. So everything was based off of what was happening in the streets and sometimes, when you're doing your research, I'll talk to like the vice president over at Apple Music, Yomi, and I'll speak to certain people at Spotify, and they'll end up pulling. It'll take weeks with the algorithms to find it, but a lot of these are robots. A lot of the streams are false. So by the time you've already caught up to it, like Jackie also mentioned, artists already have bidding wars, deals that are already in motion. And then by the time you get the project, you're getting the phone call that, the artist has lost 1 million streams or 2.5 million streams because none of them were authentic. So it's hard to make a living in today's market if you're not a rapper, to be honest.
Well, let me ask you this. How significant or important and how accessible is traditional radio? An area where Skip and Mike and Jackie and Veleka, you all are sometimes trying to tap on a regular basis, but is it important and is it affordable?
Yeah. Well, I mean, radio is still a very important fabric of the mix of artist and music exposure. That has declined. Streaming has encroached upon that, and various other music offerings on television and streaming video services. So, radio has some work to do there. There's no reason to think not. The cost of doing business is always going to be there. It's always important to get as much attention for a single. That means people that know the stations they're working, that know the markets that they're working in, and that's not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Skip summed it up. The cost of doing business with radio, it's an expensive endeavor. It still is to this day. But I think with streaming and radio, one of the issues why you see a significant drop off, I know Skip can talk to this, in the last 2 to 3 books, Skip, you see all the mainstream stations that are in all the major markets, whether it's a Hot 97, a Power 105, a PGC in DC, KYS. You see all of their numbers, all of them taking significant hits. And you see the adult AC stations rising in the marketplace in terms of their their popularity. One of the main things that we sat back and did research on is that the mainstream stations are competing against these kids who are 4 months, 6 months ahead of the stations in terms of the music that they're playing. So if you put a record out tomorrow, the kid who the 12 to, we can say 12, 24, you can even say 10 to 25, he's already heard that song 5, 6 months ago and is already off to the new songs. So you see a significant drop off on quote unquote the mainstream stations because they're even behind on their music playlists for the target audience that they're going after.
Yeah. I think as long as we have that 35 to 54 demo.
Gotcha. So the attrition is happening hardest in the terrestrial radio stations that are targeting a younger market because they are so much further behind. I was just thinking the artists that I hear are the artists that come from SoundCloud or have migrated over from some part of social media or online. They're not from radio per se. Terrestrial radio is the last piece of the pie. I mean, it's not that kind of interest. The interest for me at any terrestrial radio station is, thank God I only get in the car during the noonday mix so I can hear Prince Ice and somebody else, because it's those DJs that are keeping radio alive because they actually have the freedom to play what they want to play. It's thematic. They have a vibe. They set their own tone, their own personality. It's the only reason to listen to the radio. Why listen to a radio that's programmed for an algorithm that really doesn't give a damn about the actual song, but is there to keep the momentum and the tempo to keep your ass there for advertising? They don't care about the record or the artist. So, I mean, we ought to all be clear and honest about that part of it. That's so hardcore in radio programming that it ain't funny. I mean, it really ain't fucking funny. They don't care about the song. That's why the songs are the same. That's why the songs are, when they get trite and trivial and the music gets that way and you wonder why they still playing all this mumble rap, because that shit fits, because it keeps my stream smooth. I ain't got to think about it. It doesn't go blip. What was that? It doesn't move. It stays like this. We're programming. So, just be real about that or need to be expressed. That's what happens to terrestrial radio. And now you've got you're online, and the irony of it, you actually got streaming services calling it a playlist. Okay, they got a playlist. They got somebody that's basically sitting there saying, shit, you want to hear what I like? You want to hear what I've curated? You want to hear my rap caviar? That's what a good DJ used to do.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay,
well, so that's where we are.
So we've got radio, we got social media. How realistic, now that we're returning out of the pandemic, is it for artists to look towards live touring and performing opportunities? Is there a future there, and is there a paycheck there?
I think it's the only
if you Bruno Mars and Anderson .Paak.
but there, I mean, but still, yeah, but there are festivals. A lot of artists are getting exposure. I mean, it's the big ones.
Yeah. Totally agree. I just came from the Roots picnic on Saturday, and it was packed out. 100,000 people in the heat. Vendors out the wazoo, mainstream artists, indie artists. It was good. People still love music. People still love a festival. I saw Maverick City last year sell out arenas. Maverick City music, and they're back at it again with Kirk Franklin and Jonathan Reynolds. So touring is still there. People still want to see live music, and we're in a pandemic now. I mean, last year we're in a pandemic now, but last year we were in the thick of it. And to see a gospel Christian group sell out arenas was impressive. You haven't seen anything like that. So it's just the way it's positioned. Live Nation is getting behind a lot of these indie tours. PJ Morton. It's about the music, and it's about how you position it. So it's not just of course Bruno Mars is just out of this world, and those tickets are as well. But it is room for everybody. Everybody's doing it. It's just the way you position it.
I also think
we've been deprived. When you deprive,
we've been deprived. Exactly. Because the artists that we have on our label, Jackie, like the sellouts for some of the artists that we have because of COVID are unreal. We have a guy like Polo G doing 10,000 seaters, getting $300,000. I mean, last month I was at the Garden for Tyler the Creator, sold out Madison Square Garden. Baby Keem sold out. Was at Terminal 5, 10,000 kids. The prices have grown astronomically. You can't go to a venue right now for the next 3 months if you're trying to get a ticket for anybody major, mostly from the Sony halls, anything in New York. They're all sold out, whether it's rap, gospel, hip hop. The artists are just at an all-time high. And I think that social media, we can lead to the pandemic.
How much are the tickets?
For example, Tyler the Creator was going for $100 at the Garden. This is a rapper. This is not even a mainstream rapper.
And he's selling out all his merch.
Yeah.
That's another thing, the merch.
He's selling $100 t-shirts.
We did Fabio Foreign last week over at Irving Plaza. $75 a ticket. People, 3,000 people inside of standing room only inside of Irving Plaza for, you could say, B-list rappers at this point, because people want the music.
Maverick City.
And you have to understand that demographic, they're accustomed to paying $200 for a pair of sneakers. So $75 is a steal.
Nothing. Yeah. But I think that also goes to what Jackie and Skip were saying a little bit earlier, is that it can't just be about one thing like streaming, because you're not going to make money. You're going to make a thousandth of a penny per stream. So you got to have the merch. You got to have fan engagement on social media. You got to work live. You got to make sure your publishing is all connected so that you can get your ASCAP and your BMI checks and all of the various sources that are around. So let's talk about that, what I call the below the radar kind of stuff. Because stuff we're talking about with Skip, with radio, with Jackie and Mike in terms of, being on the stage. That's all the visible, what I call in front of the camera, in front of the stage, on top of the screen stuff. For Stanley, you guys are below the radar screen, because for the most part, except for when you all perform live with the choirs and the artists that you support, you're in the studio on the grind. People don't see that. They may see the credits, but they don't know behind this artist is this producer. There's that song. So let's just talk about what the two of you all do in terms of the dynamic of your day-to-day how do you make your bread, and how do you preserve it for your next deal? How do you get to work?
Well, for me in the music video space, my rep may send me 4 new records a week, from your Polo G's to your Littles and your Bigs and your all those young people that my children have to update me on who they are. So in my space, they're still shooting music videos. They're not $500,000, but anywhere from 75,000 to 300,000, depends on the artist. So they're still spending money. Kids will, our phones have become our televisions. So our children are watching videos on loops.
Yep.
And so there's still an audience that's engaged with media. And so whether it's a short film or music video, they're still spending money, because that's another stream that the record labels are collecting, whether it's YouTube spins or buying a music video on Apple Music. So it's still going, it's still moving. People want to see stuff, especially when we were locked in the house. Like, they were running out of content. That's why there's so many music movies and series being shot now, because they got to re-up. We were sitting in the house for 2 years streaming movies all day, every day. D Nice blew up from just watching him play music all day. Mm-hmm. So there's an audience, and there's money to be made, and there's money that is still circulating.
Yeah. Stanley, and you're in the studio on the grind, writing songs, producing songs. What is it like to be a career as a producer and songwriter?
Well, it's hard. I made an investment in a facility, and right now every day we just writing, and then you gotta, you have a song, and sometimes it's like having a car with no machine, with no engine in it. You know what I mean? It's dope in the garage, but ain't no engine. You ain't going nowhere, bro. You know what I mean? So getting stuff placed, trying to get connected with labels right now, and you got to have money for that. This is not like it was back in the days, man, where you just had a good artist who had the potential to be the next Alicia Keys or whomever. Man, you got to drop money, and especially in the gospel space, right? You can't. Investors are not touching it. And I know a plethora of investors and billionaires and millionaires who love me to death. They would buy me a Starbucks before they invest in a gospel music business, because the margin, like what they spend at dinner, is going to be the yearly budget for a gospel project. So that conversation is out the window. So now we're trying to figure out, how do we partner with brands and secular companies and partnerships, and I'm working on things like that, because to walk up in a situation and saying you got the next gospel anything in that niche market, you're not going to see the light of day, right? And because when you look at when you look at that genre, right, and HASAN has made reference to Maverick City, and that's a special kind of movement. But when you look at it in that genre, we've had the same top 5 gospel artists for 30 years.
That's right.
Yep. That's right.
We the only genre,
and particularly when you think about in the gospel arena, that's where the sales were, because you could always count on the gospel market to actually buy physical product. Remember, even when others were waiting. Gospel people we gonna sell some records, real records. Yes. But now they've adapted, of course, to streaming. So now what is there left to take in the gospel market? It's totally an investment. And I don't know if there are even independents, and I'm speaking about publishing houses or investment companies that are looking at the publishing of gospel artists the same way they would have with the publishing of a Drake or a Kanye or an R&B artist. Do you understand? I don't know if are they courting the publishing for gospel music?
Not the same, because
is that being pursued?
Yeah, I do a lot of practice, and I have yet to do one gospel catalog sale. But talk about R&B and urban and hip hop, every single month. I mean, for ridiculous money. While we're on gospel, let's not leave gospel yet. I want to go to VELEKA because you've been a little quiet. Let's animate you. How do we? Jackie just said, you know, she was sharing about the difficulty for gospel artists, which is the truth. How do you connect your artists with brands to blow up their career and put some money in their family's pocket?
Of course, well, y'all don't know, but I came into this industry late, probably about 5 years ago. So as I came in, I started learning more about social media and growing social media. So what I have established and what I have taught a couple of different artists is how to build up their followers on Facebook and how to monetize. And to me, a lot of people don't understand the consistency and the monetization of social media. So it's to the point where I'm teaching artists, like I have one under my belt right now, who's generating over $40,000 a month. So now we're taking that 40,000 and he's able to make the music, mix and master. Let's do videos, help do some radio support, advertisement, and things like that. So not only is he blowing up like that, you have different companies seeing them, and they also want to do influencer marketing with them as well. So that's my goal, and that's the thing that I try to do all the time is teach artists how to make money, because honestly, realistically, dealing with gospel, I hate to say it, but you're just not making money right now. And that's another way to make money, honestly, is to monetize influencer marketing and things like that.
I feel you. Let's talk about the message. Do you all collectively or individually feel that artists have a responsibility, given the times and challenges that the world is facing right now, to be more conscious, socially conscious in their lyrics and their music? Or should they really kind of focus in on the monetization and making a career and feeding their family? It's a challenge in the dichotomy, but what is your sentiment?
I think it depends on the heart of the artist. I think that if you're not sincere about it and it's not you, then it won't work. I mean, look, there were many Motown artists, you know, looking back, reading and listening to, watching documentaries during the 60s that, you know, they partied, dancing in the streets and all that. And then you had a Marvin Gaye who, you know, in 1971 comes out with What's Going On, that Berry Gordy really didn't approve of at first, because he was like, why are we going to mess up our careers with these protest albums, you know? And so there was plenty of time to party. I mean, during the height of a lot of craziness, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles were, you know, doing all kinds of party music, and yet you had artists that felt convicted to make a statement. And over time, Smokey Robinson made many statements, both verbally and in his music. So I think it's up to where the artist's heart is. Every artist probably may not need to try to take a stand if it's insincere, or if their stand may be something that they don't really understand and they're just doing it because it looks cool to say something, you know. But it's about conviction and your personal ability to be credible.
Yeah. Anyone else like to jump in?
I mean, because I work in the gospel music space, I guess I can speak more to that. And I think, you know, gospel artists, they do have a responsibility to give you that, not only in their music, but in their lifestyle. And, you know, unfortunately, some people, because of social media, it's, you know, it's a thin line. And some gospel artists can kind of, I guess, be a little, what's the word, controversial on social media. And then so it's just like the lifestyle doesn't line up to the music per se. So I think sometimes we have an issue there with gospel music. I remember interviewing Stanley one time, and he made such an amazing point about, you know, how 20 years ago, a gospel artist like Yolanda Adams would come on stage and boom, it's like you knew she was there. Yolanda is here. She's dressed the part. She looks the part. She's gonna sing you to the rafters, and boom, CeCe Winans. She's gonna come out there with that beautiful $1 million smile, sing pure like an angel, and it's CeCe Winans is here. It's like now in gospel music, we've kind of lost that. It's not that same wow factor anymore. And I think it's because of, you know, just like I said, everything is so disposable. It's not how it once was. And you know, we could kind of say that probably for, you know, all genres of music. It's just not the same. Even the pandemic had even shown that, you know, during the pandemic, people were going back to, especially in gospel, they were going right back to catalog music. The newer music was not selling. It was going back to the Winans, to old Hezekiah Walker, to old Kirk Franklin, because they want that nostalgic feeling. That's when music was, man, it was it. And I never thought I'd be the old guy saying that, you know, almost 47 years old. I never thought I'd be talking like this, but it's true. He's like, I hear some of the music now. I'm like, what is that? Never thought I'd be that guy. But I mean, here we are. So, you know, I think, you know, especially from the gospel point of view, yes, we do have a responsibility to, like, you don't got to put everything on social media. Like, everybody has their proclivities, everybody do their thing, you know, but everything doesn't have to be on social media. And as a gospel artist, I think, you know, it's a thin line. So,
yeah.
And to touch on your point, I think that a lot of the music that artists that are conscious, it speaks to what Skip was saying, that if it's really not your lane, it doesn't work. Like, I mean, if you go back, like, to during the pandemic, during the whole Black Lives Matter movement, the artists that did stand apart, that did make music that had impact, a lot of it was never released commercially. A lot of it, like you said, went online, social media, like Corday. You have Chance the Rapper. There are some artists that, you know, that I've heard some incredible music during the pandemic that was conscious, but it wasn't profitable for, I can't speak to what if it was profitable for the independent artists, but I know commercially on a major label that it's not music that would get played on the radio. So if you put a conscious song out, it's not getting into rotation. If you're lucky, you know, it may get a spin over an overnights, but it doesn't have the impact. And we put a few songs out, even with Beyonce. I think Skip might remember, put a Beyonce song out during the pandemic. And again, we're talking about Beyonce, and the record never really it didn't resonate, it didn't connect, not at commercial radio, online. Again, maybe almost like maybe 27 million streams, but that is a very low number for even an artist like Beyonce to put music out that, you know, had a message in it.
Wow, sign of our time. Yeah. We're nearing the wind down of our get-togethers tonight. I know it's too short for too much information, and we could probably do this for a couple of hours. But before we kind of jet out into the nighttime, I'd like to give just everybody on our panel an opportunity to share one recommendation that you would leave with our audience, just to help them, give them a mantra, something to kind of use as a guideline as they develop and pursue their careers. Veleka, why don't we start with you, and then Hasan and Clifton and Jackie and Stanley and Skip and Mike?
Yes, if this is something that you're really passionate about, please stay consistent. Consistency is the key.
I would say stay true to who you are. If you have a particular sound, stay true to that. Be who you are, and don't be afraid to follow your passion and work a day job. You know, a lot of people want to get out here and be like, this is what I'm doing, and by any means, but the bills still got to get paid. We're in a different time now, a different world. Nobody's giving out these big advances and things of that nature. Those days are long gone. So, you know, follow your passion, but still work, and, you know, stay true to who you are as an artist.
Thank you. Clifton.
I'd say dream big, believe in yourself, and don't allow anyone else to place their hardships on you and you absorb them and make them become your hardships. Because if you believe you can make $1 million in the pandemic, it's already happening. If you believe it, don't allow the outside noise to disrupt that thought.
Yeah, good point. Hey, Jackie, how about you?
I don't have one. I honestly don't have a mantra or words of wisdom for an artist today. I honestly think it's a pimp in a whole game, and they better go get their paper. That's really what I feel.
Wow. Yeah. Skip, what's happening in the radio world? What would you say?
Well, I mean, whether you're trying to be, on air or on TV or an artist, you're always a student. Study hard. You have tools that many of us, as we were first coming up in our teens and early 20s, didn't have. We didn't have Google when I first got in the business. I had to send away and order books, or I had to run to get Radio and Records magazine and Billboard and read them cover to cover, or Monday Morning Quarterback and some of the trade magazines of the industry, or borrow them from, go to the library. And you're a student. You have to study a craft, and you have to remember that music is music, but the music business is also a business, and so you got to learn your business. So the learning never stops. You're always in college.
Yeah. There's two words to that: music and business. Thank you. Hey, Mike, how about you?
Like Jackie, I really don't have a mantra, but I do have a principle and a philosophy that my mentor taught me, Hank Carwell. Hank always said to me from day one, it's a hobby until you get paid for it. Yeah, that's what he'd always say to every artist that walked into his office. It's a hobby until you get paid for it. And, I echo the sentiments of most what everybody said. And it's an expensive hobby at the end of the day. And, the best thing I would tell somebody is learn the art of being a salesman and spend somebody else's money.
Wow. Yeah, definitely. Stanley, you got that one hit.
I just say do it because you love it. Because win or lose, at the end of the day, win or lose, I'm gonna do what I love. And there's nothing more gratifying than getting up every day doing something that you love. So win or lose, do it because you love it. Yeah.
You have to have the passion for it, and then the passion has to follow the commitment. And for our Christian and gospel folks, it's the same as comes from the Bible. Without faith and action, the two have to be hand in hand. Otherwise, you've got nothing. So I just want to thank all of my panelists for joining us tonight, sharing these words of wisdom, sharing your time, sharing the information. Hopefully, it's uplifted and given some direction and some inducement to some of the folks that have been listening to get out there. Basically, not only focus, but find out what your passion is if you don't already know it, and then work it. And then there are going to be bumps in the road, but you have to sustain it. Someone earlier said continuity. You can't do this, or you can do it if you just want it to be a hobby, but recognize it as a hobby. And that is what Skip just said. It's the music business. And there's two words that are combined. For those of you in the audience that do have questions, I invite you to send them to PR, as in public relations, PR@thefoxworththeory.com. Just put your questions, single questions only, not a book, into an email. And then Eugenia Foxworth and the Double Exposure team will get those over to us. I'll direct it to the appropriate panelist, and we'll try to get some more answers and some information to those things that you would like to know that we weren't able to cover tonight. So with that, I'd like to bid everyone adieu. Farewell, be blessed, stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you all, and good night.
Good night, y'all.
Bye-bye.